Welcome in. Thanks so much for joining me. So today's topic is one that actually I think about a lot, but I haven't made a lot of content on it before because it's a little challenging to get across what this really means because it's very personal to each of us as a meditator. And, for some reason, when I say it out loud, it seems just too obvious. But I realized maybe it's not so obvious. So I thought to talk a little bit about it today. And what am I referring to? I'm referring to the idea that, meditation is about working with ourselves. And so again, maybe I'm like Captain Obvious here, that of course meditation is about working with ourselves. But I think it's really interesting what this could mean and what the implications of this are. Meaning, like, what does it mean to work with oneself? Is one question I have. Another question is, what else would we be doing in meditation but working with ourselves? So, without paying lip service and with actually doing a little bit of introspection into our own practice, myself included, sometimes I think we can see that we actually do have other motivations for meditation that, some healthy, some not so healthy. And I personally find myself a lot of the time, life is hard, especially, when we're going through a tough time or we're working through a difficult mood or state or sets of emotions. And, I don't always want to work with myself. By myself here, I'm obviously starting to define it. What I mean is the contents of my experience is what I really mean, right? Because what does myself mean? Because we're changing all the time. So what does that even mean? It just means the contents of our thoughts, emotions, psychology, etc., our life. So, of course, when we try to approach that, sometimes that's extremely challenging and we're going through a tough time and we do anything but work with our, experience or our life or the contents of what's arising for us in any given moment. I mean, I think this is why we can see there's so many tools for distraction out there and we love them. Some of them are useful. But there's a lot of tools to distract us and, we enjoy those tools. Because it's difficult to sit with ourselves. When we sit alone, when we sit and do nothing, we're going to experience, most likely we're going to experience different moods and emotions that we would typically not want to experience, right? It's sort of like a bundle of things we've suppressed or pushed away or stayed busy and distracted from. And then suddenly when we're sitting with ourselves, they come up, which, of course they would and they should. Because they want to be heard. They want to be met. They want us to work with them. So for some people, this is almost something I've seen that keeps them from meditation practice, something that keeps them from meditating. I have one mentee, just to use an example. Actually, I have many mentees who experience this, where they struggle with sitting on the cushion because every time they come to the cushion, all of what's wrong in their life starts to come up. I usually say that's not a bad thing, as long as that person has the wherewithal to deal with it. It's not a bad thing because it needs to come up. It means it needs to be worked with. It's sort of like, when the body's sick, we have symptoms of sickness because the body needs medicine, right? Or the body needs something to help us heal. So it's very similar here. So for me, I've kind of switched my thinking around this over the years, that my meditation practice isn't necessarily forgetting something, because this is another area. And of course, we could say it is for kind of, making progress in our path if we're practicing traditional Buddhist meditation, or maybe we have a certain kind of goal of working with our anxiety or stress or something like that. Those aren't bad. It's just that if we're doing that at the expense of actually working with the content of our life in any given moment, that itself can become a distraction. That can become a form of spiritual materialism as well, where we're pursuing this outside thing, all the while ignoring what needs to be dealt with. And by dealt, I don't mean we need some fancy technique. Often in meditation, we just need to learn to be with our experience. Of course, it's easier said than done. I'm not going to say that's easy. It's also very unpleasant for a lot of us. So we do it gradually. We learn ways to do that, and we learn ways to work with that, and we approach it like a long-term project. Not in the sense that we're going to solve something, but in the sense that we're trying to get used to something. We're trying to, engage in a process of compassion and wisdom and awareness more and more. So, like I said, it's kind of obvious that meditation is working with ourself and working with the content of our life, but I think it's not so obvious how to do that. And often, as I'm saying, there's so many ways we distract. There's so many ways we, find ourselves wiggling out of that experience. So this is one level of kind of maturing in our practice. I would like to recommend. And again, those of you listening to this out there, you might be in different points in your practice, which is fine. So you kind of just have to see what's your entry point here. But for those who've been practicing a while, I find this can be the challenge is at some point we have to accept that we're going to need to be with discomfort. And of course, we need ways to do that in a healthy way. But we need to eventually approach it like that. And so just to give some hope here, since I've started introducing this, which is taken its own process, meaning like often I forget it, and then I'm off in some other idea of what I want to do with my meditation practice, or I'm just trying to get through it or whatever. But since I've kind of implemented more of a mindfulness practice of trying to remember when I start my meditation, it's about being with what's arising now. Not just being aware of it, not just being aware and cold, but being with it and aware. Since I've done that, it's just been extremely helpful because then it's a lot easier to bring it into daily life when I'm not practicing formal meditation. And I'm not saying I've gotten anywhere special in particular. It's just that I've noticed that's really benefited me. The more I've implemented that, the more I remember, oh, this is about meeting this moment right now. Right. And that can mean many different things. Often for me, it means an approach of compassion, compassionate awareness, as well as a sense of watchfulness that can provide possibly some insight into the moment and some space, right? So often that's what I am working with. I'm not always having that. Sometimes I'm struggling. Sometimes I'm fighting through something. But either way, the main point is we need to shift our attitude towards how we're using meditation at some point, and then it will mature. It will actually be able to offer much deeper tools for what we're going through, right? Including, the things throughout our day where we just drop into an awareness and be with it, not in spite of it or not to get away from it. So, I'd love to hear from all of you out there. Of course, if you feel like commenting, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening to my podcast, reach out to me. You can reach out to me at scotttusa.com. And also you can check out my website. There's lots of obviously freely given content on there, some guided meditations. My email list is on there if you want to join that. And and if you need some deeper help, feel free to reach out. It's this process of, I guess, learning to be free is how I think of meditation at this point. It is a challenging one, and it has a lot of sidetracks and alleyways. And I think the more I do it, the more it humbles me. Not in that I'm a humble person, I'm really not. But I mean, it humbles me in that, like, you just get shown how much more work there is to do. But anyways, I felt called to share this today. And so I do hope it's helpful, this reminder and maybe some ideas behind what it means to work with ourselves. So thanks so much, everyone. See you soon. Take care.